Accessing peace. Existing without violence, with the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And I know it's been a week. It's been a week since I did a show, and what a week it has been. Last weekend was, as I expected, incredibly long. So, if you recall, on Friday of last week, I had mentioned there would not be a show on Monday because I was going to be in a meeting and doing some traveling. So the half marathon that I ran Saturday morning last week, it was fun. It was good. Very interesting story here. So there's somebody that I have met online that had not previously met in person that I knew, Kathy's going to be running the race and, we'll probably wind up meeting up. We wound up meeting up before the race started, and we were chatting about what sort of time we were hoping to have for the finish of the race. And while I wasn't trying to, run the best race ever, I just wanted to, since it's the first of 7 half marathons that I'm doing for the year, just wanted to run a good race and feel comfortable with the pace that I was running, and calculated that out to be about 2 hours, maybe 2:05. And she said, yeah, that sounds about where I want to be. I was like, all right, cool. Maybe we can run together. And when we got into the starting corral, she went towards the back end of the wave. And by wave, they have stuff set off to where there's a group of people that start, and then several minutes later, there's another group that starts, and then a few minutes later, another group. That way, everybody's not starting at the same time. So she goes to the back of the corral for our wave, and I like being up towards the front. Not that I'm necessarily, a super fast runner, but I want to reduce the chances that I'm going to wind up being immediately behind and next to people that might be at a slower pace, and then I've got to try, either like weaving around them or something. And I don't like being what would be referred to as boxed in, meaning people on all sides. So I like staying over to the right edge. That way it's easy if somebody needs to pass me, well, there's not somebody on my side that's blocking them, etc. So I'm towards the front, she's towards the back, and we're running. And I was thinking, it would be nice if she were here, have somebody to chat with, but didn't really think anything of it until there was a certain point at probably about mile 5 where in the middle of the road there was a turnaround spot to where you had to run past a certain point and then turn around. And so then you would get to wind up seeing everybody that was in front of you prior to you turning around, and then a certain number of people behind you after you made the turn. And so I saw her and waved. And then about another mile goes by, the 6.2 mile mark. I had to make a pit stop because, well, the pre-race potty didn't get everything out, if you know what I mean. And so I stopped, do my business, and exit the Porta-John and start running. And then I see Kathy in front of me. And so I run up and catch up to her and say, hey, you passed me. She's like, how did I do that? It's like, I had to pit stop. And so we wound up running together for the rest of the race. And I, every now and then would look at my watch. We're probably going to hit 2 hours. And she's like, I don't know. Yeah, well, I think we're going to get 2 hours. And turns out my finish time was 1 hour, 59 minutes, 55 seconds. Hers, even though she finished right behind me, her finish time was 1:59.44 because, again, she started further back in the wave than I did. So she beat me. And come to find out, she set a personal record, meaning that was her fastest half marathon. So, that in my opinion is, great. Like, I knew I wasn't going to wind up setting a PR. I wasn't trying to set a PR, but finished about where I wanted to and basically helped somebody wind up doing something that they had not done before. And then a couple hours later, I wound up going to the airport, flying from Boston out to Columbus, Ohio, getting into Columbus at about midnight, and then an incredibly long weekend of meeting where for about 3 hours on Sunday morning, we discussed whether or not to discuss commas. Now, if you're a libertarian or have any history of involvement with the Libertarian Party, you've heard about the infamous 30-minute discussions about commas. We didn't have one of those. We had a discussion about whether or not to discuss commas. And I would like to say it was a productive meeting, but that would not be entirely truthful, as we did not get anywhere near as much business done as what anybody was hoping. And then on the return home, my flights were delayed, and I wound up getting in a couple hours later than I wanted to. Now, I say all of that to then say that next week I hopefully will do a show on Friday. I will be flying to Omaha, Nebraska. And I've never been to Nebraska, but the good thing is I'm getting there on Thursday. And I have to relook at the schedule because I forget what times I'm speaking at this event. But there will definitely wind up being something. It will probably not be the regular format. I'll probably just snag a couple of people and maybe interview some of the other speakers, maybe some guests. I'm not really sure, but I'll definitely try to do something from Omaha, Nebraska next Friday. And then the following Monday, I'll still be in Omaha, I think. So that Memorial Day Monday, there may or may not be an episode. I'll figure it out. And depending on how many people I wind up snagging to speak with, maybe I'll get 2 episodes done in Omaha. Put one out on Friday, one out the following Monday. Stay tuned. We'll actually jump into an actual topic instead of just me rambling.
This November, I'll be running the world's biggest and most popular marathon, the New York City Marathon, as a member of Team Innocence Project. The Innocence Project was the first legal organization to systematically apply DNA testing to cases of wrongful convictions as a powerful tool to reveal innocence. Tony Wright is a perfect example of the power of DNA. The Innocence Project litigated for almost 6 years to get the court's permission for DNA testing. Tony had been incarcerated for nearly 25 years in Pennsylvania and narrowly escaped the death penalty. Tony's case, sadly, is not unique. Empowered with the unequivocal proof of innocence provided by DNA technology, the Innocence Project has litigated hundreds of wrongful conviction cases, leading to the exoneration and freedom for more than 180 people through DNA testing. Overall, there have been 356 DNA exonerees in the United States who were wrongfully imprisoned for more than 4,875 years in total. You can help support the Innocence Project and help me secure my race entry in the New York City Marathon by going to run.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And before I jump into the topic that I wanted to talk about this week, which is people doing the right thing even when they don't need to, I've got a question for you. Are you an advocate for free market money? Do you use and promote Bitcoin as an alternative in this fiat-centric world? If so, then you need Spend-A-Bit in your arsenal. Spend-A-Bit is the search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin. And Spend-A-Bit has aggregated millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants. Keep your money in the free economy. Spend a bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a Bitcoin accepting merchant like I am, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.fppradio.com. So, let's talk about doing the right thing. And there's a specific reason I want to talk about this. And it's something that surprisingly has been controversial for about a month. The Boston Marathon, as you may recall or may not, happened about a month ago. And there was some controversy. Not controversy about the weather, but controversy about who gets prize money. Article from Runner's World that is fairly critical of the decision here to wind up giving prize money to women that finished in positions to where they earned prize money. But again, not everybody agrees that they actually deserve the money. Let me jump in to the article. The author here, again, fairly critical, says, in my hometown, every 4th of July begins a 1-mile race on the streets of Flagstaff, Arizona. It's set up like the 5th Avenue Mile or the Carlsbad 5000. Waves of competitors. And again, the wave is there's a group that starts at one time, and then several minutes later, another group, and then another group, etc. In this Flagstaff 4th of July mile race, those waves are grouped by age and gender, and the waves compete against each other. The author says, if I enter the downtown mile, I can choose the category in which to compete. Being an old, I can opt for the Masters wave, or if I'm feeling ambitious, I can go for the open division and risk being whooped by a pack of teenagers. Typically, I opt to skip it altogether and volunteer instead. However, if I decide to compete in the open category and place 10th, but run a faster time than the winner of the Masters division, I don't earn the first place Masters award. It was a different race with different competitors, which created different racing strategies and dynamics. It's an entirely different competition, one in which I chose not to participate. I go home empty-handed. Seems fair, right? And I will say, in that scenario, yes, because you, as the racer here, you were allowed to choose which category to enter. That was not the case in Boston. Continuing on, in the aftermath of the 2018 Boston Marathon, a year in which treacherous weather conditions played heavily into the racing tactics of top female athletes, 3 women in the open category and 2 Masters athletes ended up in the final results with faster finishing times than women who received prize money. The faster women were ineligible for awards because they didn't qualify to compete in the elite women's only field of 46 athletes, which started at 9:32 a.m. in Hopkinton, Massachusetts. Instead, these women began at 10 a.m. in the next wave of 7,500 mixed-gender competitors. Pause. Do you notice the difference? In the original scenario, the runner was given the option of, do you want to compete in the Masters race or the open race? In Boston, the race organizers selected who was in the women's elite starting wave, and everybody who was not pre-selected as a women's elite competitor then started almost 30 minutes later. The author of this article continues, what happened next included predictable outrage and backlash. Just as predictably, much of the controversy was unwarranted and based on misinformation. Some news outlets framed it as an issue of gender inequity. Others didn't fully understand the rules involved. After 2 weeks of trying to explain the rationale behind the policies to anybody who asked, the Boston Athletic Association announced that it would award the non-elite women the prize money after all. It was a generous and classy move, one that was totally unnecessary. Again, I don't think it was unnecessary for the Boston Athletic Association to wind up doing the right thing. Again, the BAA, the Boston Athletic Association, predetermined which women, based on the existing rules, were eligible for prize money. Now, they don't actually say only elite women are eligible for prize money, but that's basically the way the rule was interpreted, to where they determined, oh no, it's based on how you cross the finish line, not what your time is. So if you were a non-elite woman who started at 10 o'clock, you would have had to have run 28 minutes faster than someone that started in the elite category in order to wind up winning prize money according to the existing rules. Again, do you see how this is not the same thing as what the author gave in that first scenario of where racers are able to choose which starting wave they enter? I don't know of any woman running the Boston Marathon that thought that she could wind up, finishing in, say, the top 20 that would have said, oh yeah, put me in that open wave that starts 28 minutes after everybody else. Again, this was the BAA basically saying, yeah, these are the women that we think can wind up winning prize money. Stay tuned. There's more here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. What are your thoughts on doing the right thing? Shoot me an email, dotherightthing@fppradio.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at weusecoins.com. That's weusecoins.com. Born into a devastating world and raised among the crowd, the Cloudwalker assumes a new identity and begins the unrelenting quest for truth. In this epic journey, he discovers dark secrets about aspects of his previous life that he once trusted. Through the Journal of the Cloudwalker, he shares both the traumatic hardships and the eternal beauties of his experiences. Fueled in the beginning by his unsettling thoughts and emotions, he learns how to find peace with everything he has woken up to. Dear Society by the Cloudwalker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. Now, doing the right thing, I would say, is the right thing. And having good technology is good. And the philosophy behind the tech is very important. And Zencash was made by voluntarists with the ideas of voluntary interaction being embedded into the white paper. Voluntary interaction, that thing that is the right thing. So don't initiate force or fraud against anybody else. Yeah, that's the right thing. And don't you want people that, have similar ideas programming your technology? I know I do. And with no central authority or single point of failure, Zencash is much more resilient than a traditional corporation, and everyone has an equal opportunity to participate in decision-making, which empowers stakeholders and makes Zencash less susceptible to third-party influence. And Zencash allows for secure private transactions. You can learn more at zencash.com. That's zencash.com. Jumping back into the article here from Runner's World, where, again, the author of this piece is fairly critical of the Boston Athletic Association's decision to wind up giving prize money to women that wound up running a race and finishing with times that otherwise made them eligible to wind up getting prize money, but because they didn't start at the same time as the elite women, the author here says they shouldn't wind up winning. anything. According to a written statement from the Boston Athletic Association, the BAA will ensure that these 5 additional women, all of whom started in Wave 1, receive a financial award for their net time performance this year. These awards will be made in addition to the existing prize money that will be paid to the elite women's start competitors and equal with the amounts paid to corresponding elite women's start placement. As a result, Jessica Chichester, who had the 5th fastest time, gets $15,000. Veronica Jackson receives $1,700 for the 13th fastest finish, and Becky Snelson takes $1,500 for the 14th fastest marathon of the day. Joanna Bork Martignoni clocked the 3rd fastest Masters time, earning $2,500, and Brenda Hodge had the 5th ranking Masters race and earned $1,000. The author of this article says certainly this recognition was, or rather on what was a historically challenging day in Boston, is a lovely gesture. It also offers an opportunity to explain how elite women's marathon racing works and why. It was a tactic that began in 2002 at the New York City Marathon. Officials decided that the women's elite field of about 40 athletes who had qualified with times under 2 hours 40 minutes would start 35 minutes ahead of the men's professional group and 50,000 other runners. It offers the women more exposure on television and to spectators because they aren't mixed in or blocked out by the men who are running the same pace. It also gives the professional women a chance to truly compete against one another. They know where their competitors are, they can respond to each other's moves, and gauge effort in relation to how the race is playing out. This strategy has been well received by fans and athletes alike, spreading to many other races like Boston and London, and heralded as an advancement for women in sports, elevating the profile of the women. World's records are now divided into categories for women's-only races and those clocked in a race that include men, which is considered an advantage because men can aid in pacing and drafting. Who is included in the elite women's field? And this is where the controversy comes in. The article here continues. Much of the controversy that followed the 2018 Boston Marathon involves how the women are chosen for the elite field and why the women who started in the wave behind the professionals were not included in it. In Boston, elite athletes are invited by the race organizer, meaning the race organizer basically decides which women are eligible to wind up getting prize money. The qualifying standard fluctuates each year. For women, the cutoff typically lands in the 2 hour 45 minutes to 2 hour 49 minute range. An athlete can also qualify even if it's her first marathon, if race officials consider her performance at other distances like the half marathon and 10K. The professional group includes about 50 to 60 athletes. According to the BAA, this year 59 women entered the pro race, 15 did not start, 18 did not finish, and only 26 crossed the finish line. In New York, the field is limited to 40 women who are mostly recruited, again, by race officials. Can race officials increase the size of the women's field and allow more runners a chance to compete and, in theory, actually earn the prize money? Though I would say that any woman who finished in the top 15, regardless of which wave they started in, has earned the prize money. The author says many factors go into deciding how many elite athletes should be included in the race. Because the women start first, officials have to be concerned that the majority of the entrants are fast enough not to clog the roadways or crowd the aid station when the top men catch up. After the circumstances this year, the BAA says the policies will be reviewed to determine whether more women are considered sub-elite and can be afforded a place on the elite starting line. In New York, organizers say that adding more women likely would not be considered due to the concerns about safety and a fair field of play. Now, I would come up with a compromise and say that anyone who qualifies based on time, and there are several different ways that one can qualify for one of these races, but if you qualify on time, you don't have to be 30 minutes over that time, in my opinion. If you qualify on time, you start in that wave that makes you eligible for prize money. Stay tuned. There's more here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
It is the year 91,001 BCE. Witness humanity's origins in Hyperchronius, a classic role-playing game for Windows PCs with a story like no other game before. A liberty-oriented experience that is not to be missed. Go to zog.ninja to get your copy of Hyperchronius today. Use the code FPP to get $1 off. Hyperchronius, zog.ninja, code FPP.
You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and Numery supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $3 per month through Patreon and get perks like ad-free versions of FPP Radio News and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's fans.fppradio.com.
This is Will Coley of the Call to Freedom, and you're listening to Darryl W. Perry on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Speaking of money, I like money. Do you like money? Well, maybe you want to turn some of your money into a long-term investment, what some people refer to as the original cold storage. That would be precious metals like gold and silver, also maybe platinum, palladium. Diversify that wealth. Well, if you want to do that, pick up the phone and call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. 800-874-9760. That's 800-874-9760. They've been helping people since 1977 buy and sell precious metals. And Roberts & Roberts Brokerage is a cryptocurrency preferred business, meaning they want your cryptocurrencies. And to show that they're crypto preferred, they have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in digital currency. Again, 800-874-9760 or visit online rrbi.co. That's rrbi.co for Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. A little bit more to this article, and I want to skip down to where the author of this article says, so did the BAA make the right call this year? Backlash and outrage are fine. They often force us to reevaluate what's best for sport and its competitors. But it's just as important to base policy and opinion on facts instead of clickbait headlines that result in emotionally charged tweets. The fact is, the 5 women who landed in the top of the results ran a different race. True, they did run a different race, but it was not of their choosing. Awarding the prize, the author finishes by saying awarding the prize money to these women who ran in a wave one is a nice way to recognize their achievement on a freak day and went above and beyond what is called for in these circumstances. Competition isn't about racing a clock. It's about racing each other. No. It is about racing the clock. Again, that race that I ran on Saturday, I finished 1 hour, 59 minutes, 55 seconds. I finished in front of my friend Kathy. But she had a better race than me. She finished ahead of me in the standings. You are racing the clock. Otherwise, they would not give you a finish time. This is not NASCAR, to where it's the first person to complete 500 laps or however many laps. Like in theory, in NASCAR, somebody could start in 43rd spot, have a faster car than everybody else, but still only finish in second place based on, stuff. But with this, with road running, you are racing the clock. That's why they give you a gun time and a chip time. You're racing the clock. The BAA did the right thing. The author of this article is absolutely 109,000% wrong. Don't forget, every Friday I answer your questions. Send those over ama.fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.